Hey guys, welcome to Teslanomics Live. I'm your host, Ben Sullins, and this is the show where we break down the biggest Tesla news from the week that has passed. Today is a special episode as we have the confluence of not only Tesla, but SpaceX coming together in a first for automotive and rocket technology, maybe. And I also have a special guest with me that's going to be helping me break that all down. So let's jump right in and see what exactly the news is that we're talking about here. First is this piece from Elon where he tweeted about the new SpaceX option package for the Tesla Roadster. And as you guys know, I'm getting one, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be getting this option or not. The idea is that there will be 10 small rocket thrusters arranged seamlessly around the car, which I'm really curious how that'll happen. And they will help improve acceleration, top speed, braking, and cornering. Maybe they will even allow the Tesla to fly. Now, I thought this was another one of those kind of jokes that he does, and he, maybe a little tongue-in-cheek. And then Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, as you know, I'm one of the biggest YouTubers out there, asked him more about it, and he said, "You have my word, the next-gen Roadster will absolutely be out of this world," which, to be clear, the first Roadster is also technically out of this world. But those, it'll be for those who love to drive, and there is no finer car in history. We do not think there will be another. Wow. Okay. So before I invite my guest on to talk about this and figure it out, I do have a video which someone posted on Reddit explaining what this might be. And so this is something from Bosch where they have a motorcycle here that is sliding on this gravel that they added here, and they are using these rocket-like thrusters to help it recover so it doesn't tip over. And so you can kind of see that example here. It's kind of crazy when it looks like it, but it's just like this little compressed air that shoots out, and it helps it stabilize. So someone posted this, and I thought this would be interesting just to give the only visual representation I can think of what this might actually look like. So there you have it. And Bosch, by the way, if you don't know, makes a ton of the parts that are in that are in all of these cars, all the self-driving stuff from Mercedes and from Tesla and everyone else. So yeah, that's kind of nutty. Now, I'm going to bring up my friend Tim Dodd, who you may know as the Everyday Astronaut, and ask him what the hell is Elon talking about here. So, Tim, welcome to the program, man. Please help me understand what is going on because I'm lost, and you're a rocket guy, so break this down for me. What is he talking about?
Well, first off, thanks for having me, Ben. There's actually a lot to digest here, and you were right to bring up that Bosch, the Bosch motorcycle thing, because that is actually an example I used in a video that I just posted today. I kind of did an in-depth rundown. And but what they're going to be using is essentially a cold gas thruster. So these are all over spaceflight. It's normal. And people might think of the Dragon capsule that goes up to the International Space Station. That does not use cold gas. That uses RCS, or reaction control. So those actually are hot gas thrusters. They have chemical reactions. But cold gas thrusters are seen on the upper stage of the Falcon 9 as well as the first stage of the Falcon 9. And it's literally just compressed nitrogen. And nitrogen makes up like 70% of our atmosphere. So they can just pull it out of the atmosphere, compress it to like insane, I think 350 times or more atmosphere. So we're talking about crazy numbers. And then literally they just let it out and bursts, and it can be pretty powerful. The ones on the Falcon 9 first stage are estimated to have about 1,500 pounds of thrust.
Okay, hold on. So we're turning a Tesla into a gas car.
No.
Nitrogen?
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, it's an inert gas. It's not being burned off. There'd be no hydrocarbons. It literally and actually they probably won't even be, my guess is they're just going to pull straight air and compress all air. They aren't going to try to filter down to just nitrogen.
Right. And so it's still zero emission technically?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
So it would use the regenerative braking.
Okay.
Because especially if your car's anywhere near or above 90%, I believe it will not let it recharge the battery anymore, and there's times where you have to, use the physical brake pads in a Tesla because the battery pack can't accept more of a charge, right?
Right.
So there's room there to actually take some of the electricity that those motors can generate and spin up literally an electric pump, a high-powered electric pump, and start forcing air into what's called a COPV, which is a composite overwrap pressure vessel.
All right. So yeah, Elon tweeted about that because there were more, and you in your video, I haven't got through all of it yet. I was prepping just as it came out. So, but yeah, explain to me, what is that? The COPV. It sounds like something from eating bad food or something. I'm not sure what I'm doing.
Well, it might have a bad name to some people that aren't terribly familiar with them, because it's actually was the failure in September 1st, 2016, when SpaceX had that big explosion on the launch pad. It was due to a failure of a COPV. But don't expect that to happen on these cars, because I know they'll be well underneath that operating pressure, and they won't be in cryogenic temperatures either, experiencing things like solid oxygen. That's just not going to be the case. Mm-hmm. But what we do have is literally like an aluminum bottle wrapped with carbon fiber. So composite overwrap, that's the carbon fiber, pressure vessel. And a pressure vessel can be anything that holds pressure. In this case, like an aluminum tank. And so SpaceX has tons of these all over their rockets. Literally anything from, life support uses this. They have TTEB, which is triethyl aluminum, triethyl boring, that lights the engines, uses this. Nitrogen, obviously. I mean, it's all over the place. And helium that replenishes the tanks as the liquid oxygen, and as the RP1 gets drained out, they replenish those tanks with compressed helium. So these things are all over the place, and they're all over the place kind of everywhere. If you start paying attention.
It seems like this is something maybe from a SpaceX standpoint that is pretty simple to make.
Yes.
Right? Well, now, how do you integrate these into the car? How is this possible? Because the car is so beautifully designed and, sleek. Any idea how that would actually work?
Maybe you saw Elon replied to my tweet when I asked him exactly that. And he said he's going to be replacing the back seats. It has the 2+2 configuration. So there's like baby back seats, basically. You could the bottles, and according to the math we actually ran, some of my Discord members helped me crunch all the numbers, and we did find out 2 relatively small bottles could actually hold enough compressed air to really do a couple 0 to 60 blasts too. So
yeah, and so the zero. Okay, so a couple things here. First off, I think that's cheating on your 0 to 60 time. I don't think you're like literally strapping a rocket to your car. I don't think that's allowed.
Why? Who says?
Otherwise, like a drag car or something would be. Yeah. Okay. So you take away the back seat and you throw in the tanks, and then how do you get the pressure out from there? Like so, is it like little tubes running out, or is the actual thing that does it? Is there like a nozzle that has to be really strong or something?
No, there would actually be really high pressure lines run to all the different thrusters. And then there's a valve that can actuate really, really, really quickly and react, to milliseconds, and would be throttleable and all this stuff too. So, those tanks would stay stationary and then just be able to have. And my thought is, it doesn't even need to be pointing like necessarily out of the car. So yes, one example would be having the thrusters on the back of the car, pushing it forward.
Yeah,
that is a little cheaty to me. But what about having it be an active, instead of active aerodynamics, it could still be kind of active downforce by literally just firing straight up, pushing the car down to the ground, giving the tires additional traction for a temporary amount of time.
Which is kind of like a spoiler or other things that you have to do that. Because, I mean, and there's a guy who has a great channel. I forget his name, but it's called Engineering Explained.
Yeah.
And he's done some really great calculations on basically 0 to 60 times and how the physics of that work. Yep. And often what it comes down to, as far as I understand from watching his videos, is traction on your tires. Yes. Because in a car like a Tesla Roadster or, a handful of these other cars that have 1,000 horsepower no longer plays a role, because you could effectively
tires.
Yeah, you could effectively have infinite horsepower, and it wouldn't matter if your tires can't grip the ground.
Exactly.
And the torque can't be applied in the right way to not slip.
Right.
So I could see that. So if you had some kind of rockets just making the traction better.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would work for cornering and all these, can offset a lot of different things. And unlike active aerodynamics, even the best active aerodynamics, you still have to be going a certain speed for those to really be taking hold. If you're going 20 mile an hour, you're not getting nearly as much downforce. And sometimes there's certain cases like with an F1 car where if you go slower through a turn, you're going to fly off. You actually have to go fast enough to get the aerodynamics to be giving it enough downforce to physically make the turn at that speed.
Wow.
Otherwise, so there's a threshold where if you're not going fast enough, you're actually going to wipe out. And this can avoid that because this would be able to work even stationary.
It could like detect that and instantly, shoot a little. Yeah. Now, what happens to me if I'm standing next to one of these when they fire?
That's definitely could be an issue. It would be a cold, inert gas. It's not going to be like hot and light you on fire. You might go momentarily deaf because these things could be extremely loud. Mm-hmm. Because it is just it's a nitrogen horn basically. And as a matter of fact, like NASA's Plumbrook Station, they have nitrogen horns that blast 156 decibels at spacecraft to make sure they're ready to go for space. And it's literally just that. It's just highly compressed nitrogen. They go, bah! So it might be that. So maybe you have to have like some hearing protection and off-road use only or something.
Well, and that goes to a little bit of the concern of having it be a street legal production car, right? Like I'm not sure that this is going to pass whatever kind of, committees it needs to be allowed on the street with literally like nitrogen horns. It's insane to me.
But then again, like it's not illegal to have nitrous oxide, and they have purge valves on those that are fairly loud, stuff like that where, I mean, there might be some, personal, you might have to discern a little bit safety on your own, which is always a scary thing, but they could also, software lock it out. Like, hey, you're in a metropolitan area. You can't use this right now or something, you're not on a drag strip or private property or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not sure how people would handle that. From like, hey, I paid so much money for this, I'm going to use it how I want.
Well, it's better than there's a Ferrari that you don't even get to keep. They keep it at a racetrack for you.
Oh, really?
It's like the FXX, I think, was like you literally couldn't own it and take it home. You just get to go use it.
Why not just get a race car at that point? Yeah. Man. Okay, so a couple more questions. How much will it cost?
No idea. I'm assuming really expensive.
Yeah, like how much does one of these COPV tanks and nitrogen horns cost? Any clue?
I honestly have no. I mean, I would just totally just this is coming out my butt here, but I'm guessing $100,000 for a system like that. I have no idea.
Wow.
And that to me seems pretty conservative. You're talking about space grade material, but they don't need to be space. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I wonder if the engineering of it is different at all because obviously you don't have to deal with like the vacuum of space, right, and things like that. So
thing, yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I have no idea, but yeah.
So will this let all of us be Starman technically?
That's my one true hope in life. And I think I'm gonna have to start saving up for this because I don't know of anything that satisfies, ticks off more of the boxes than that for me. So.
Well, guaranteed. When I get my Roadster, we'll get together and you can ride around in a spacesuit and we can kind of do some stuff like that. I don't know if I'm going to get the SpaceX. If I have to pay $100,000 for it, there's no way I would do it.
I will chip in. I don't care.
We'll do a GoFundMe. There you go.
Yes. Oh.
Great. And I'll get more crap for that.
Yes.
Oh man. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for all of that. I think that helps at least us all understand it a bit. The next piece of news I was just going to switch back to, but I thought since you're here, why don't I ask you about it? There's a report I found on Tesla Roddy about the Falcon Heavy trying to launch in November. Yeah. And I'll read you the little blip from it, and then just give me your thoughts. So it says, according to several of its satellite passengers, SpaceX's second launch of Falcon Heavy, this time with 3 Falcon 9 Block 5 boosters, is understood to be targeted for no earlier than November 2018 and will mark the first commercial mission for the world's most powerful operational rocket. Mm-hmm. So, thoughts of it actually happening in November or this year?
I think I told you, like last time we were chatting about this stuff that you just never know with timelines, especially this far out. I tell people don't even plan on a launch until 2 weeks ahead of time. And then wait to buy your tickets until they've static fired. So, and that's normally like 3 days ahead of time. So if you can. I mean, honestly, this far away, there's really no way of knowing. We do know they're coming up. They're going to be doing another Block 5 launch soon. I still would speculate that they're not going to launch a Block 5 version of Falcon Heavy until they at least have the new COPVs that we just learned about. They have this new 2.0 version that they're going to be using on Block 5 boosters this summer. And they need to launch 7 of those with those upgraded COPVs in order to be certified for humans, which they're hoping to do ASAP.
Yeah, so the Falcon Heavy won't have humans, though, right?
It won't, and it won't even be human rated, but it's going to be entirely based off the Block 5.
Yeah.
So everything kind of depends on how, all leading up to that.
And then when is the first planned manned mission from SpaceX? Isn't that next year?
There's still some people reporting it could even be this year.
Wow.
We're getting closer. This is the closest we've ever been, by far. But I'm still thinking it'll probably be like Q1, maybe like early Q2 next year would be my guess. But I think we're under a year finally.
And that would mean a big deal because, correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, if we want to send somebody to space, if the United States wants to send somebody to space, we need to go to Russia or India?
Yeah, we have to go to Russia.
And it costs a stupid amount of money, right?
Yeah, it costs a very, very large amount of money. Yeah.
What is it per person? Like $5 million or more than that even?
It's about $70 to $75 million per seat right now on a Soyuz.
Per seat?
Yep, per seat. And there's up to 3.
There's 3 seats? That's it?
Yeah, there's 3 seats. And you're so cramply, you're literally like pumpkins smashed inside a small pumpkin jar. I have no idea a good analogy for 3 things crammed together. It's really tight. It's really crappy. It's really outdated. As a matter of fact, like the commander has to use a stick to poke the buttons because their ergonomics of the spacecraft are so bad. They literally have like a space stick, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So we're talking about, a very 21st century spacecraft with cool screens and
I saw some images of it recently of what was it, the Dragon capsule?
Yep.
Where they actually finally had somebody from NASA. I don't think he's a current astronaut, but maybe a former one or something in there testing the ergonomics out.
Yeah. These are current astronauts. They actually have multiple people testing on SpaceX's spacecraft as well as Boeing, their CST-100 Starliner, which will also be launching humans. Hopefully, they're in a race. They're in a tight race. It's crazy.
And the big deal about SpaceX sending people is that it will no longer cost $75 million a seat, right? It'll cost, I don't know, $3 million a seat or something crazy cheap.
Not yet. It'll still be like $50 million probably.
Really?
Or more for now. But that's also because of the amount of safety regulations, hardware, blah, 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 that NASA requires for their astronauts. So it'll be better than Soyuz, and any step in that direction is a good thing. Any price reduction in spaceflight is great, but eventually over time we can expect this to just keep going down and down and down. So
amazing. All right, man. Well, hey, I'm gonna let you go, but I really appreciate it, guys. If you're watching and you don't know who Tim is or his channel, please go check it out, as well as his video really breaking down even in further detail the whole crazy Roadster with rockets thing, which you just published that this morning, right?
Yep. Just got it up today.
Cool. So I will link to that in the description if you guys are watching this after the fact. And Tim, thanks again for joining us here.
No problem. Thank you,
Ben. Talk to you soon, buddy. Cheers.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. So we're going to jump over now to something from last week that I did, which I thought was kind of cool. And so I wanted to share this with you in case you didn't get a chance to see it. So this is the phantom drain study that I did with the guys at Tesla. So if you're unfamiliar with what Tesla is, it's an app used on your phone to track your actual stats on your Tesla. So things like phantom drain and efficiency on trips, and it has all kinds of privacy controls, so you can share it with folks if you want to, or hide it. Just use it as your personal device if you want. And because I'm a board member of that company, I have access to everybody's data that uses this in an anonymized fashion, and we use that data to do studies from time to time. And so we did a study recently, and we had over 825,000 trips that we analyzed. And in these trips, we saw essentially what was going on with phantom drain, which is that the charge you lose while your car is just sitting there between the different models. And so we have a huge amount of data that we're actually looking at here. We found that the Model 3 had a higher amount But when you broke that down, it looked like the Model 3 was normalizing over time and has a downward trend, which may make it actually better than some of the other models in the future. So let me try to get over to the trend if I can. So here you go. You can see in the early days of tracking this that you had some really crazy amounts of Model 3 drain, and that the overall that trend is just headed down. So great news, and I go into more detail about the calculations and all that stuff. So if you didn't see that video, I published it this past Friday. Go check it out after this stream is done, and of course I'll link to it down in the description. All right, next bit of personal news was that the drive I did to try to hit 100,000 subscribers, which didn't actually happen, of course, but you could win a Model 3 rental, has ended. We had over 1,000 people enter, and I think like 1,500 or so other people that had been shared and joined the community as a result. So thank you to everybody that entered. The actual winner, his name is Andrew Young, and he's from Bellevue, Washington. So Andrew, expect to get a call from Turo later today or tomorrow, and they'll be reaching out to schedule your Model 3 rental. So congratulations to Andrew. There are also 23 other winners that will be getting other prizes like tickets to TeslaCon and t-shirts and other kinds of fun stuff. So stay tuned, and we'll be doing more of these kind of giveaways in the future. And just thank you guys for your support. All right. So the next bit of news actually is that we are doing TeslaCon this year. So everyone that came last year, I just can't thank you enough for making this possible. If you're unfamiliar with what TeslaCon is, it's an online gathering of Tesla and the EV community. So what we all do is we get together and we have folks like Robert Llewellyn, who just had a great Fully Charged Live. We have Trevor Page from Model 3 Owners Club. We have Zach and Jesse from Now You Know. Sal Lopez from Spain. And we have Ryan McCaffrey, who you guys probably know on Ride the Lightning podcast. And then you have Galileo Russell from Hyperchange. And we have even more people joining. So this is like a 9-hour live stream. It's like a full day live event. And what we do during that event is you get to ask questions, you get to interact with them, and then afterwards you can go back and watch it. So that is officially available. You can go get your TeslaCon tickets at teslacon.online. Now, I'm doing it something different this year. I'm limiting it to 100 people total. And it's also cheaper than last year. It's only $100, so $100 and 100 people. And the reason we're limiting it is because I really want everyone to get a lot of value out of it. And if there's too many people in the sessions, the questions get out of hand. It just kind of becomes a mess. So that's the idea, and it'll sell out soon. It'll sell out pretty quickly. So make sure if you're interested in that, to go check it out. It's in November, so we have quite a bit of time, and we're actually going to be adding more speakers and stuff as we go. So there you have all of that for self-promos and kind of what else we have going on in the world of Teslanomics. Next, I want to talk about some cool stuff related to the Supercharger network. So Tesla has now deployed over 10,000 Superchargers worldwide. It's actually a little bit more than that, and it's pretty awesome. This stuff has been growing over time, and it's one that I'm excited about, but I also think is a bit of a vanity metric. And let me explain that for a second here. So I just did a test, and I'll be posting this video next week, where I went 7 days just using my own actual regular wall outlet at my house, the regular 120 volts, I think it is. And it was okay. And I'm going to break down that data and share that with you, because I know a lot of you guys are in that situation. You don't have a home charger setup, but you have a Model 3 reservation. You're trying to figure out what to do. Now, the Supercharger network is fantastic, but it costs money, and it's not always available, and it's also not at your house. So I love that this is progress and that we're seeing more and more of these stations available. Elon did talk about this at the shareholders meeting last week, that we'll see Supercharger V3 sometime soon. And so all that stuff is great, but it is a bit of a vanity metric. I do think, though, that as this continues, what we'll hopefully see is other manufacturers that are using this and start to work with Tesla. So if you're unfamiliar, this is not a walled garden. Elon has explicitly stated that any other manufacturer that wants to use the Supercharger network can, assuming that they pay for their fair share of the usage during that time. And so I think, and what I'm hoping, is that eventually some of those manufacturers are going to come around and realize that this is a great way to jumpstart their actual program, right? Because if you made a great electric car, that all of a sudden had this giant network of superchargers, it would make it much more palatable to a lot of people versus right now where you have limited stations and they're much slower and all these other things. So, cheers to Tesla. I think this is great, and I hope to see other manufacturers using it. And I hope that that's really the takeaway here. So let me know what you guys think about that down in the comments, because it's something that we're going to continue to see over time. All right, next, this story made me smile a little bit. I was pretty happy to see this. So the short sellers, and these are people betting against Tesla, lost more than $1 billion on a single day as the stock jumped up. And this was after the earnings call last week. And Elon had some great comments in there. One of the things was about Model 3 production and that's going smoothly. And we'll talk a little bit more about that soon. But this, to me, is the beginning of the end, because we've been through the kind of the hell at the very bottom of this trough of delusionment, as they call it in the technology hype cycle lingo. And now we're going to come up to this kind of a realization of how powerful and how big this change is that we're going to see. And so as this happens, not only does it make me feel good because anybody betting against a company that's trying to fight climate change and do all these amazing things, like, screw you to begin with, because that you shouldn't be doing that, even though I know you're just trying to make a buck. Like, to me, this is like altruism winning over capitalism, and that's what I love about it. So, some little bits about it is that investors betting against Tesla lost more than $1 billion Wednesday, according to the estimates from the financial technology firm S3 Partners. So they were the ones there that put out these numbers. Now, Tesla bears have lost nearly $5 billion in mark-to-market losses since 2016. S3 finds. So those are the people betting against them. And then they said that the electric car maker is one of the most heavily shorted stocks in the U.S., as well as the most heavily shorted automaker in the world. Now, I'm interested in this because I'm curious when we're going to start making the distinction between an automaker and an energy company. Tesla is getting much deeper into making solar panels and batteries and deploying huge projects worldwide. So I'm really curious as to kind of when this is going to happen. So curious what you guys think about this. I personally don't invest in Tesla, nor do I any individual company. That's just my philosophy on it. But I know some of you guys out there do, and so hopefully that stock popping is pleasing you guys. There was another article on CNBC as well about this, talking about the Tesla shorts feeling more pain after a 10% gain on week. So a pretty big jump for them. So. Great news for Tesla stockholders. Great news for us that believe in the company's vision, and customers that have reservations or maybe hoping to get a Tesla that can fly one day. So let me know what you guys think about that down in the comments. Now, some other stuff that coming out last week was this really great article from Tom Randall about the Model 3 line at the Fremont factory, and this is kind of a rare look. You don't really get these intimate portraits into the actual Model 3 factory that much. And this is something that I personally, even when I visited recently, wasn't able to get that great. And so these photos here are super telling. I'm going to just kind of highlight a few of these here. If you've never been to the factory, it is mind-blowing what it looks like inside of this place. It's not like anything I personally have ever seen. Here you have like the stamper, which is this 3-story building essentially that comes down on these flat pieces of aluminum, and it makes it into a perfect door or trunk piece or whatever. So this is like one of the stampers here. Oh man, it's just these photos are great, and they also highlighted a lot of the workers, which I thought were also great, because the people there are just as important and as impressive as the robots. Personally, that's my opinion of it. So while a lot of times, you get the shots of the robots doing the things and we kind of praise it for that, I think that the people there are just as valuable. So I really applaud Tom and his team for doing this, because I thought it was a really insightful piece. I'll put a link to it. It's a bit of a longer read, but if you have some time, I think it'd be well worth it. And one little tidbit coming out of that was that the line, they said, is now 95% automated. And that bodes well for the production, because they also had some comments in the shareholders meeting about the Model 3 production and how that's coming along. So let's transition over to that. You can see the Bloomberg tracker here is showing 2944 as of today, and so that's how many cars they're estimating the Tesla is actually producing week on week. And they have their whole model. If you guys haven't seen this before, they have a whole way of going about it. And you can see the dips are when the production slows. Maybe they're doing maintenance upgrades, or in the recent cases, they actually made some changes from the stuff they got from the Groman facility from Germany and installed that in the Gigafactory. So I think this is a pretty cool way of looking at it. And it got me thinking, all right, well, what's happening with this? Let's see how that plays out. So I have my Model 3 ramp estimator here, and I built this a little while ago. This is a dynamic version, so you can actually plug in whatever these numbers are, and it uses the log growth function, the actual mathematical formula on how these things work, to calculate it. So this isn't like I just made up some random numbers here. This is using an algorithm and then the real value. So this is the key to any of these things, right? Like these mathematical models are true, but until you have actual data to base them off, they're going to fluctuate wildly. Well, here what you have is we have some real numbers now. So if we go back to the first data point being the first week in January, and Tesla stated they made 1,000. And now if we go to the most recent one on the Model 3 tracker, you change the date to today, and then you update it to, what was it, 2944. And of course it has to refresh because it took a second there. If you change the date to today, and then you update this to 2944 or thereabouts, we'll call it 2978, you can see using this model with a peak of 10,000. This is the key. This is another key variable that we do not know. A peak of 10,000 cars produced per week means that in 2018, using this model alone, they will produce nearly 200,000 Model 3s. And I'm calling them sales as well because they have well over that amount of pre-orders, and those are going to continue to grow, I think, as you start to see them on the road. So if you wanted to be more conservative with it and say, let's say they can only produce 6,000. Well, you can change that number there. Not 600. That's going to mess things up a little bit. 6,000. You can see what that would look like then. So if they can only maximize that line to get to 6,000 instead of 10,000, then you're looking at 170,000 for 2018. And that's assuming that these other numbers are accurate. Now, if you want to be really kind of bearish on it and say, let's just do 5,000, they're down to 161,000 for 2018. In any way you slice this, if you're using this formula, this math, they're going to have a monster year. And so this is where the whole bears, the people shorting Tesla, I just think like the insane, the heat that they just got, the intensity that we just went through these past couple months of all the negative media and attack ads and articles out there. I think this is why. It's because as soon as this, they start hitting 5,000 a week, Tesla's just going to be eating everyone else's lunch, and all the people are just going to lose all that money. So that, I think, is the motivation. I think it's a normal human reaction, but using kind of the data and the math behind this, it's kind of hard to deny that Tesla's going to have an absolute monster year. So all good stuff for folks like me and you that are fans and customers. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. I'm really curious, kind of, if you think this model's right, if you punched in some different numbers into here. And I'll put a link to this if you've not seen this before. It's on my website at teslanomics.co. All right. Now, there was a shareholders meeting last week, and I did a live stream of it, and so I'm just going to mention that. I'll put a link to it down there. And I also did a follow-up video with kind of my big takeaways. One of the things was just kind of how endearing Elon is, and how kind of open and honest he and the rest of the team were. I thought this was incredibly great session. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that, go check it out. I also had the shortened version, which I did. So there's that. But I'll give you the short, even shorter version right now. My takeaways from the shareholders meeting. Production's on track for 5,000 Model 3s per week by the end of June. By the end of June. That's in a couple weeks. 5,000 Model 3s per week. If you saw the math I did in that before, that's over $250 million in revenue every week starting this month. I mean, it's here. It's happening now. It's amazing. Now, the $35,000 version of the Model 3 will go on sale at the end of 2018. And then Tesla's actively looking at better battery technology. There's been a lot of questions about whether or not they've had a breakthrough, and that's how they'll be able to do stuff with like the Semi and the Roadster. And JB Straubel, the CTO and probably the smartest battery guy in the world, said that Tesla can't give away actual details on their current pricing, but that they are actively looking for they talk to every startup, every lab about every battery breakthrough, and they haven't found anything that's better than what they currently have. And then Elon kind of followed up saying that they're hoping, I think within 2 to 3 years, get the cost of the pack down to $100 per kilowatt hour. And the reason that number is significant is because at that price point, if you can get the whole pack, not just the cells themselves, but the whole pack, down to $100 per kilowatt hour, you can basically sell an electric car for equivalent cost of a gas car. So you'll see the cost even come down. Now in Tesla's case, I think what you'll see is the profits go up, but because they've open sourced all their technology, you could imagine a Honda or a Toyota selling a $17,000 electric car that competes on every way with something like a Civic or a Camry. So amazing stuff coming out of the shareholders meeting. Oh, and the last thing was the Gigafactory in China is going to be in Shanghai, and it will have it will make the powertrain, the batteries, and the cars. And this is what Elon talked about, I think previously in the earnings call, and then here he reiterated at the shareholders meeting that all of these in the future will have will kind of be vertically integrated. So every Gigafactory will, like, raw materials come in, cars come out the other side. Versus currently, the batteries and powertrains are made in near Reno, Nevada, and Sparks, Nevada, at the Gigafactory 1, and then they ship all that stuff over to the Fremont plant in San Francisco area, and then they produce the cars in general assembly there. So they're changing that model a little bit, and if they're able to do that, that's actually another kind of great sign for the longevity of Tesla, because what you'll see is this kind of like plug and play version of factories where they can drop them in Europe, in South America, and more in Asia, places like that, where they have like a great model and they just need the space and kind of those things, and boom, they're up and running with the supply chain and everything, producing cars on short order. So I think the shareholder meeting, deeply insightful. Definitely go check it out if you didn't have a chance. Okay, and the last news story before we get over to the Q&A is that the new version 9 of Tesla software is coming in August, so pretty soon here. And as Elon stated, with the first full self-driving features. So if you're unfamiliar, we're currently on version 8. I think it's 8.2, maybe 8.1. And this is the Model S and X taxonomy. The Model 3 has its own kind of different one, but we all think it's generally the same core technology underlying. But with version 9, this will be the biggest upgrade in a couple years. And just wanted to recap like what it can do today versus what it might be able to do. So currently, the car can do lane keep, where as the road turns, and you can see it on the graphic here, that it actually stays in your lane, right? Simple enough. And it will turn for you, depending on how sharp that is. People have tested it on like the Clover, freeway on and off ramps, and it doesn't, do that well. So things like that. Like generally, it just keeps you in your lane on a normal road, on a highway. It also has what's known as adaptive cruise control. Other people call this traffic-aware cruise control. And so this will, speed up and slow down based on the cars in front of you. And so that is autopilot essentially. Like it'll keep you in your lane. It'll speed up and slow down, giving you the sense of like it's practically driving for you. It also has a couple other features that are included in this. This is the self-parking, where it can do a perpendicular park, or it can do a parallel park. And that's actually a pretty awesome feature. Now, it isn't, again, without its faults. I know I've heard stories of people where there's a pothole and it doesn't see it, dips down and like hits the curb, those kind of things. So it's not perfect, but that's also what it can do today. Then you have Summon, where from your phone on the Model S and X, not the 3, you can actually have it go back and forth in between like a tight parking space, which I can tell you, like I can't wait for this to come on the 3 because there's a lot of times where I would use that. That's like currently what's possible, right? It's like kind of the full gamut of it. Now, what it might be able to do in version 9 is basically what is currently advertised. And so in if you go over to the website here where it has the actual Autopilot stuff, you can see that what is currently advertised, but not actually functional, is this idea, the first one, of actually moving around and through traffic. So it's the idea that will basically allow you to like find your way. So if you're navigating somewhere, it will then change lanes, and it will kind of, if someone's slow in front of you, it'll go around them, and all those kind of things. The next one is the on ramp to off ramp, where it'll actually get you on the freeway and exit you off the freeway. So these are, features that are advertised on the website right here, tesla.com/autopilot, but don't actually exist. You can't actually, this doesn't happen, or it's not useful. Now, the other one is this Auto Steer Plus. This kind of exists, where it handles really tight turns and things like that. I think it's pretty good, but it could be better. Now, the Smart Summon. So the summon I mentioned before, where you can kind of have the car come out and meet you, it's basically only straight. It's only one directional. You go in and you come out. That's it. So here's a great example where, imagine if your garage was around the corner at your house, you could hit a button and it would go turn and then park and then come back out. So currently it doesn't do that, but that would be something that I think would we can hope to expect to see in this next version. Now, of course, there's the full self-driving capability, and this is like the whole other the basically like fully autonomous cars, where you get in your car. You don't even have to tell it where you're going. It takes you there if it's in your calendar. It parks and all that kind of stuff. Personally, I'm interested in this from a kind of Batmobile standpoint. If you are of a certain age, you remember when Michael Keaton was the Batman. And he had one of the coolest features ever of his car, where he could be off, on a building somewhere, tell his little device, come pick me up, and the car would actually find him and come directly below him, and he would jump right in and those kind of things. So, which might be technically possible in the Roadster. Maybe we'll have to do a little bat suit kind of a demonstration someday. But anyways, those are future things that I don't think we're going to expect to see any of that stuff yet. So it'll hopefully be able to do everything that is advertised on Autopilot, in the current advertisement of Enhanced Autopilot. So there you have it. All right, now I'm going to switch over to the Q&A, and I'm going to go over to Patreon, because that is one of the benefits that you get by being a Patreon supporter. In fact, today it's free. It's open to everybody. So if you want to ask a question right now and make sure that I answer it, go over to teslanomics.co/Patreon. You have to be registered with Patreon, but you don't actually have to pledge in any dollars or anything right now to get your question on the list. And then I'll go over to Crowdcast, and then we'll kind of wrap up there. All right, so let's give this a go, and hopefully it looks okay when I do that. There we are. Okay, so Israel asks, hello and thank you for your work and dedication. It helps us understand how data can be useful, but at the same time entertaining. You're welcome. Tesla recently published that they reached 1 gigawatt hour of storage, an obvious homage to Back to the Future. When do you think they will reach 1.2 gigawatts of global storage, assuming there is data to guess it? It would be nice if they let us know so we can celebrate it somehow around the globe, especially from places that are benefiting from it. Saludos. I patron 2 shows and you earn it every week. The other is fully charged. Well, Israel, thank you so much for your support, as well as commenting and sharing videos. I know I've seen your name a lot in the Crowdcast and all that. So thank you. Now, whether or not they will actually share this info, I'm not sure. Elon has stated that this year alone, they have plans to either announce, I think it's just announce, I don't know, but they might be able to install it if they have this stuff lined up, another gigawatt hour scale project. I personally am hoping that that's in Puerto Rico, because they need it the most, and it would just solve a lot. And I think if I'm correct, you actually live in Puerto Rico, so that would be amazing. Now, the reason I think that is because Elon did tweet that they have 1,100 projects going in Puerto Rico right now, and so that could be it. That could be where a full gigawatt versus storage system is going. Now, of course, the right way to do it would be to decentralize it and have it be spread out all over the island. And last time I did actually an analysis on this. I believe in order to actually fully offset like a day's use of the island, you would need 5 gigawatts. So that's a 20% chunk right there. I think a huge step forward. Obviously, Tesla has a great sense of humor with these things. So when they do get to 1.21, I hope they do announce it. But that may actually be really soon. So anyways, thank you for the question and for your continued support. And I don't see any other questions on here yet, so I'm going to head over to Crowdcast and we'll get right up. Now, if you're on Crowdcast, make sure to go vote on questions. If you haven't asked one yet, please go ask the most awesomest questions and let everyone else know so that way they can vote on it and we can get right over to it. All right, let me go find that window. And by the way, if you guys are on YouTube and you're wondering how to get on to Crowdcast, you need to be on our email list, and then you get invites on Monday morning, and that happens at teslanomics.co/join. Doesn't cost you a thing, but I do limit it because I want it to be people that are really engaged, and not just anybody that happens to wander by. So that's kind of the thinking behind that. Okay, so it looks like I've got the questions up. Let me switch over now to the Q&A. All right. So first question comes from Donald. And I'm going to take a quick drink of water while I read it. Do you think the August release of Autopilot version 9 will start to resolve the inability of Autopilot to recognize large in-path objects and either stop or go around them? So what he's referring to, if you guys aren't familiar, is if you're currently driving and you come up to, let's say, a parked car and it wasn't there before and you're in Autopilot, there is a high likelihood it will not recognize it and will not stop. The automatic emergency braking will kick in, but that isn't going to prevent you from hitting it. It will slow it down, but depending on how fast you're going, it may not make that much of a difference. The automatic emergency braking, if you're unfamiliar, actually is only really tested at speeds of 25 miles per hour and below. So it's not really meant for like a 75 mile an hour highway driving. So do I think it will? I hope so. The challenge, as I understand it, is that if it did this, it would be stopping and freaking out all the time. And here's why I say that. In my garage, I have actual little rubber mats. There may be like 2 of these books right here. They're maybe, I don't know, a half inch or something. And those rubber mats, I use them. They're like workout mats and stuff like that. And so when I pull into my driveway, my car actually goes onto them. And my Model 3, it freaks out when I'm doing so, and it tells me to stop, like it wants to kick in automatic emergency braking for something that's a half-inch dip or like bump in the road. And so currently, for whatever reason, the sensors are tuned so extremely high that you could imagine if they released version 9 and it would stop, like no matter what, when it saw something, it could be, I mean, it could just be a huge pain in the ass, and people would stop using it, and it would basically, be a big failure. So I hope that they're able to figure this out. The reason I understand they currently can't do it is what I just described, but I hope that the software and the technology has evolved beyond that. Certainly, when you hear Elon and people say, yeah, we figured it out, it's easy, and then you get in your car and it does things like that, you're going, okay, guys, there's a disconnect here. So yeah, I hope so, but I'm not quite sure. Thanks for the question, Donald. Thanks for joining us. Okay, next question. M Service asks, the thing that keeps me up at night is an accident that will require bodywork. Tell me about it. Lately, I've seen a bunch of horror stories about how long it takes to repair, and more so, how much. What do you think of Elon's comments about doing them in-house? Will it really save time and money? In my opinion, they need to start building more parts to go to gore inventory, and better yet, start training the body shop personnel in unique bodywork needed for Tesla cars. Yeah, I'm hoping. So if you guys are unfamiliar, Elon made some comments at the shareholders meeting about this, saying that they were going to start expanding their body shops because, yeah, the prices and things outside of Tesla are insane. And part of the problem is that they don't have the parts. So, like if you take your car into a place to get worked on, it may take 5-6 weeks, and for that maybe waiting for a part from Tesla. So I actually have some body damage on my Model 3 right now. I apologize I haven't shared that yet because I'm in the process of figuring this out myself. I really hope they can solve it. I have no doubt that they could. People would obviously want to work for them, or maybe there's people there already that know the cars well that would want to transfer over. I really don't see it as an insurmountable problem, and I do hope it's one that they work that they resolve. I'm actually kind of holding out, hoping that like they'll announce this and then I'll go get that body work done. It's really minor, but I know even really minor stuff can be huge. So there you go. Thanks for the question. Jolly asks, has Tesla slowed Model 3 deliveries until July 1st for the federal tax credit? I'm going to go with yes. I don't know. I don't have any inside knowledge on that. But I have been seeing more cars get delivered. So I have, the referrals, and I've had a large number of referrals for Model S's and X that have been outstanding, and I'm seeing them start to get delivered more and more now. So, mid-June, I think we're going to start to see the ramp pick back up. I do think Q2 from a financial standpoint might be really difficult for Tesla, but I think it's to work the tax credit to everyone's advantage. As Elon said before, that loyalty begets loyalty, and that they'll do what's right by the customer regardless of short-term financial gains or goals. So I think I'm a speculative, but I'm going to say yes. That's my guess, is that they are. Thanks for the question. And cool picture. PRN Matt asks, with Australia and Puerto Rico serving as pilot programs for grid replenishment, where the solar shingle and Powerwall combine to supply the grid on a large scale, when will the Tesla shingle move to production installations outside of California? Well, I think this is just an issue of scale, really. I haven't heard much recently about Gigafactory 2 up in Buffalo, where I believe they make these, but the last time I heard about it, they were having like labor issues and have all kinds of problems with it. And so my guess is that this is just more of a capacity issue, that they would love to be doing this everywhere. But right now it seems like it's more like they just actually don't have them to deliver. And so as they, and everyone's attention is on Model 3. So my guess is that after Model 3 production is ramped up to 5, maybe 6,000 a week, which hopefully is, this month, as they said, hopefully business can kind of go back to normal, and some of the other product lines can start to get some love. Like, for example, the power walls themselves, I know are not readily available. I've been waiting on mine for quite a long time. So yeah, lots of stuff on that. I think once we get past this hump of the Model 3 hitting their production numbers is when we'll be good. So. Thank you for the question, Matt. Another one, in line as others waiting for a Model 3 reservation, should the near-term release of solid-state batteries not occur before our order, would it be smart to lease because any announcements of 2 to 3x energy? Yeah, so JB talked about this. He alluded that nothing out there is better than what they're currently doing, and that they talk to everybody and actively. So I don't know. Leasing, yeah, if you always want to continue to get a better car, I think is generally like that's a smart thing. That's a good approach. But I don't really think it would matter that much. I don't know if you were going to see, hey, the Model 3 gets 310 miles today, and then maybe, next month it gets 600 miles or something like that. I just don't know if that's really going to work that way. So, there's kind of an old saying, if you're always waiting for the next best Tesla, you'll just always be waiting. So I wouldn't wait personally. And I'm not even sure that solid state batteries will make it into Teslas because of the supply chain and everything else involved. So yeah, interesting question. Personally, I wouldn't wait. Thanks for the question, Matt. Emiliano asks, I know that Elon said that we cannot upgrade our batteries on the S and X, considering that we can put a V8 on a Ford Model T. Do you think that in 5 to 10 years we will have more aftermarket battery options? So you actually can upgrade on your Model S and X. Call your service center. It's not cheap, but you can do it. I've looked at doing it, and so yeah, I disagree actually. So yeah, in 5 to 10 years, yeah, maybe there will be more aftermarket. To get to your point there, but you can actually upgrade it. Last time I checked, it was about $20,000 to go from a 60, which I have now in my Model S, to 100. So, but I'm kind of waiting. Like, I'm expecting that maybe we'll see some new battery breakthroughs later this year. Maybe we'll get 130, 140, and then I'll kind of reassess whether or not that's worth it. I love my 2013 Model S. It's fantastic. I still absolutely, every time I see it, I'm just, fall in love with it all over again. So I don't really mind having an older version. But the battery would be nice because when I go on road trips, I prefer this car over the 3 because it's just far more comfortable, especially for my family. So I would like to have a bigger battery. So I may do that down the road, or we'll just use the Roadster or something like that. But yeah, call your service center. You totally can do it. It's just not cheap. Tony asks, with the information shared at the last shareholder meeting, has your estimate for the percentage of consumers looking to get the $35,000 version of the Model 3 changed? So thanks for the question, Tony. I believe what you're referring to was when I analyzed the data about the people that had used my cost calculator and looking at the percentage of them that wanted it. I haven't reanalyzed that data. I don't know. I do know this. So, I kind of want to do a video on this, but I'm not sure if I have time. So I'll give you my little short answer here. Is there was a report about 23% of Model 3 owners asking for a refund. In my little Facebook group called Tesla Jedi, which is like just fans of the show and people like that want to like have a smaller niche group to talk with, 7 people responded that said, yeah, I canceled my Model 3 reservation and I got a Model S instead. So I don't know. Like, I don't think anybody knows these numbers besides Tesla. So when I hear reports like that or I see these things, it's just it's pretty speculative. I mean, it's about as good as going off of like the data I have. So I don't know. Like, I see things like that and it kind of gets me going. So anyways, thanks for the question. I really don't have an answer for you. I apologize. Jason asks, I'm looking to get a Tesla. I can afford to pay it in cash up front, but I don't know if I should lease or buy it. How is the reliability of your Model S? If it's bad, I'd lease so I don't spend a ton of money on out-of-warranty repairs. So, yeah, the warranties, it looks like you got some comments there. The warranties are actually pretty amazing. I think you have an 8-year infinity mile battery warranty and then a 4-year everything else warranty. You can look it up on their website. So, and then there are also, if you Google it, there's a company in Southern California here called Tesloop, which uses them as kind of like a taxi service. They go not just around town, but between cities. And so they've racked up a Model S with over 330,000 miles or something like that. And that Model S, I think they spent $15,000 total in maintenance. And across, remember, 300,000 miles would be somewhere around 20 years of life. So, and a big chunk of that, by the way, was they, I think, drove it through a puddle or something or a flood and had to replace the door handles and all this. And so that was like, of the $15,000, that was like 40% of it or something. So look that up if you're really curious about it. But in general, the maintenance is extremely minimal. I've had basically no issues other than tires on my Model S that weren't already covered. And then I took it in for the second annual service, and that cost $700. So $700 every 2 years is basically all I paid besides tires. So it's extremely affordable and extremely reliable. The engines the motors are rated at 1 million miles. The batteries holding up to 80% charge that I've seen the data is up to 550,000 miles. Not something that I would really be too concerned with. For you, the question would just be, can you get an extremely good loan and you don't need, and in which case you could maybe use that money in a more beneficial way. That's always been my thought. That's why I financed it in the first place, was because it's like, well, I could do something else with this money that would earn a higher percentage than my interest rate on the loan. So yeah, it's more of a financial question, less of a reliability question is what I would say. And yeah, of course, don't forget, if you want the free supercharging on it, you can go get that at teslanomics.co/TD. You'll get my referral code and all that. And as well as you'll get an email from me and you can ask me questions and stuff. So best of luck to you, man. And congrats. Yeah. Emiliano asks, is Tesla trying to protect themselves with this new Autopilot update? Warning to have your hands on the wheel every 25 seconds or so. I don't know. I mean, Yo-Yo had his hand on the wheel, and it's still, he kind of threw him off the road from what the tale he's told. So I don't know. To me, I do think they need to do more. It's almost like it should do some good stuff. Like it should do far more than is advertised. And then also like require that you do, like, you are hands on the wheel at all times, kind of thing, even though you don't need to be. I think like maybe they were trying to walk the line a little bit of like how many, like how annoying is it versus how safe is it. And I think they should like make it way more annoying and make it way more safe until we kind of clear through, some of the technical hurdles that we've been facing. So yeah, thanks for the question. Peter asks, fastest Model 3 delivery in Montreal in 9 months, got sideswiped after 3 days. Oh, any guess/idea what repair turnaround is on a new Tesla 3 in Canada? Both doors and one panel to be replaced. Ouch. Well, I would definitely be calling your insurance and talking to the service center. That would be my recommendation. I don't know if a body shop will be able to, like, the reason I would talk to the service center is because they might be able to get the parts much sooner, or they may even have them, although you'll need them painted. Oof. Yeah, that sucks, man. So sorry to hear. Glad you have your car. But I hope it gets it resolved soon. The Chew asks, what is the expected price of the Model Y? Well, we don't have an actual price yet, but it should be a little bit more than the Model 3. And, likely with options and upgrades and everything else, it'll probably be, relatively expensive as well, but not as expensive as the Model X. So the Model X is the most expensive Tesla you can buy. So this will be cheaper than that. But it should be cheaper than a Model S too, honestly. But I don't think it'll be extremely cheap. I think maybe $45,000 for the minimum. And then you're probably looking at, $80,000, $90,000 for the fully spec'd out version compared to $150,000 for the fully spec'd out Model X. So I think it'll be kind of similar, relatively, and that over time it'll have the cheaper version coming out way later. And just one thing about the Model Y, the little image they showed on the shareholders meeting, and then the renderings that other people did, do not make me excited about it at all. My plan, originally my plan was to buy a second Model 3 and do the performance, get the performance one. But because that's so expensive, I'm not going to do that. Now I have my Model 3 now, and I do love it, but I really think a Model X would be better for my family. So I've been kind of thinking about that, and I thought, maybe I'll wait for the Model Y. No, I don't think so. After those images, it does not look like something that I think I'd be interested in. So I'm very curious to see when we actually see it, how it will look, because the images I've seen so far are not very impressive to me. So thanks for the question. Mel asks, when Elon suggests that AP version 9 features will begin to appear in August, is he talking about full self-driving feature that I paid for in advance? Ooh, great question. Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. I think it'll still just be the basic stuff. It would probably be really smart on their point if basically any new features were only available to the FSD options. But I don't think we're going to see a lot of that stuff yet. It seems a little early, honestly, to me, and that's just my opinion on it. So, but I hope I'm wrong. And I hope we have some really advanced stuff coming out soon. Thanks for the question, Mel. The Chew asks, now that the Nissan has ProPilot, how do you think that will affect Tesla and Autopilot? I don't. I think a lot of cars have similar features. The Cadillac has the Super Cruise, which is apparently really awesome. So yeah, I think we're just going to see more and more of this. Maybe when that new version 9 comes out, we'll see a significant change, a significant difference. But I think it's great. I think the more driver assist and the safer the cars can be, the better. Jeffrey asks, do you think the SpaceX option will truly be worth it? I don't know the price of it yet, so it's hard to say. But I'm not really. I don't think I'm going to buy it. I just don't think I want it. I'd rather have the back seats. It'd be more, put luggage back there or something. So thanks for the question, Jeffrey. Brent asks, when can we expect to see operational testing and recovery of the BFR and its components? I should ask my friend Tim that. 5 years? 10 years? I don't know. BFR is like not even a thing right now, right? Like they still have like a whole marathon of stuff to do before I believe we actually see the BFR. So it'll be a while. Jeffrey asks again, I was thinking earlier, is Tesla putting themselves out of business? With Elon's other businesses, he effectively could. He has the underground electric sleds for city-to-city transport. Then you have Hyperloop for state-to-state. And then you have BFR for country-to-country. And it will all be cheaper than each of the alternatives. Yeah, I think you'll still need the last mile stuff, like from your house to the station or something like that. So I think it'll be there will always be a market for people that own cars. The Tesla network is something you didn't mention that also would still keep Tesla in business, but also provide that same value. So thanks for the question, Jeffrey. Scott asks, so this all-wheel drive and performance all-wheel drive includes the premium upgrades, even though I never saw it mentioned. When do you think long-range all-wheel drive will be available without premium? Also, do you think you can get white interior without premium, and when? Also, Elon said air suspension will come later. Does that mean it's there, but it will be software activated? No. You'll have to wait for the hardware, though. It's not a... That's not a software thing. The hardware has to be there for the air suspension. He said next year, I believe. And I think, yeah, maybe Q2 next year is hopefully when we'll basically see all options of the car available, right? White interior, standard battery, all-wheel drive, all those kind of things. I think, yeah, right now they're still very early days. And once they get past this hump and they become profitable, hopefully in Q3, if not Q4, then I think we'll start to see more of that stuff happen. Right now, I think it's just all very early. Thanks for the question, Scott, and thanks for joining. I know you're very supportive. Yes, answer a lot of questions on there, so thank you for being so engaged. Carlo asks, will the new Autopilot 9 only benefit those who purchase full self-driving option? That's a great question. I'm not sure. I hope that, because the enhanced Autopilot still, as I showed earlier, is missing a ton of stuff. So I think that still has to actually live up to what was advertised. Otherwise, there'll be issues there. So hopefully it's both. Hopefully it's more. Thanks for the question, Carlo. All right, guys, I'm going to do a couple more. We're running long here today. On your previous show, you suggested that the Model 3 detects whose phone is connected, yours or your wife's, and sets the profile appropriately. Yes. As far as I can tell, you're referencing a feature that everyone wants but does not exist. Can you clarify? Tesla has even stated that the profile always defaults to the previous driver. So when you change the profile, which it should do automatically depending on who unlocks the car, except that I don't think the key card actually changes. It's only the phones. It should change everything over to your profile. I've tested that with my wife's and it works. So I don't know what you mean that it doesn't exist. In testing it worked. So maybe follow up. Maybe I'm not understanding. Thanks for the question, Tim. Phil asks, the latest incident with video footage of what looks like a Tesla employee apparently asleep at the wheel. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. It's people are not good at monitoring the systems. Do you think this means it would be wise for Tesla to abandon enhanced autopilot and instead introduce full self-driving capability when it becomes available? There was a really interesting discussion, Phil, about whether or not level 3 autonomy makes sense. Now level 3 is where it's okay to go to sleep, to watch a movie, to ignore the car, and it'll do everything for you. And then you'll only be asked in the very last possible second to take over. I think that's actually extremely dangerous. There's a really great discussion from a woman who I believe is a fighter pilot who talked about that. And so I don't know, like if that were the case, I think we'd be 10 years out. I do think that the driver assist features that are there today are helpful. I personally can attest that the traffic aware cruise control, which I use a lot, is really helpful when cars are slowing down and maybe I'm not paying full attention or I'm just tired because I've been driving for a while. those help tremendously. So no, I don't think it's wise to disable everything and say forget it until it's fully automated. I think driver assist features can be very, very helpful, but maybe requiring somebody's hands to be on the wheel at all times or something like that needs to happen as well. So I think that like there's a way to do it. Maybe it's not perfect right now, but hopefully it will be better soon. Okay, last question because we've been running long today. What features do you think may be added to the Autopilot with software version 9? Well, I just talked about that. Basically, everything that's already listed in Autopilot, or I'm sorry, that's advertised, and so hopefully that'll be available in August. Okay, guys, sorry I didn't get to all the questions. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Don't forget that if you want to be a part of these, we are doing a thing on Patreon now. You can go learn more about that at teslanomics.co/Patreon. You get kind of backstage access to everything we have going on, as well as your questions answered on this guaranteed. And just much more of kind of behind the scenes look and much more connected. So I appreciate everyone that's supporting me there and everyone that will. And don't forget,